All right. So let's put it this way. Nobody hates the New York Red Bulls more than Benny Ball, Ben Olsen. That's an actual quote from DC United's verified Facebook page on a post that they put up in June of 2020 during COVID. When they went, and this was on the same quote that they posted when they went back to relive his first and only hat trick, which was scored against, you guessed it, the New York Red Bulls. Adding to the running theme of this storytelling series or book of multiple teams and or players recording their first ever something against them. And I think I'm going to create like a table of contents just for the first that were scored against the New York Red Bulls because this is ridiculous. June 10th, 2007, New York Red Bulls are traveling to RFK Stadium to take on their rivals DC United. At this time, Red Bull are on a good run to start the year, picking up 20 of a possible 30 points. DC, on the other hand, started off a bit worse, waiting 4 games to get their first point in the league and 5 to get their first ever win. However, they did enter this day on a 5-match unbeaten. Tensions, of course, were high as the oldest rivalry in MLS kicked off for another installment in front of just over 18,000 fans. It would not take long for things to get started, with defender Bobby Boswell seeing yellow for a strong foul in the 12th minute of the game. 3 minutes later, the fun would really get going. After a string of passes in the midfield third, the ball finds its way to Josh Gross at the left back spot. He cuts it inside on his right boot and swings a long curling ball towards the box. It skips past the Red Bull defender and finds the head of a diving Ben Olsen, who's sneaking behind the back stick. His powerful effort sneaks past the Red Bull goalkeeper, Ronald Waterroyce, a name I learned, and into the bottom corner. The fans erupted in celebration as DC's hot start continues. In non-Ben Olsen goal news for the rest of the game, 3 minutes later, Dmitry Kovalenko would get Red Bull on the board and level after an assist from Marcus Schopp. The half would end 1-1, and 4 minutes after the restart, Luciano Emilio would tuck one away to give DC a 2-1 lead. The score would remain this way until the 72nd minute, when Ben Olsen would get back in on the fun. The ball would get played into the feet of a streaking Brian Carroll from fat bastard Jaime Moreno, who would open up his hips to find Ben Olsen on the right-hand side. Ben gets into the box, fakes his shot to send the defender to the shops, cuts it back on his left foot, and shoots. The ball is partially slowed down by the hand of Waterroyce, but still finds itself into the back of the net. A last-ditch clearance effort from the Red Bull defender is no use, and it crosses the line to give a 3-1 lead to DC. The crowd once again is sent into a frenzy and gave the announcer from DC, whose name I need to find again. You would know this. I'm hoping, Connor, you've listened to this. His memorable line for any time a ball goes over the line, it's in the net. It's in the net. It's in the net. It's in the net. And that announcer went off for it. DC had the 3-1 lead, and they were running home with the points. But then just 6 minutes to go before the 90 was up, Olsen would cap off his hat trick with an absolute belter. One that you simply tip your hat and say, attaboy, Benny. The ball once again is on the left-hand side of the field, an area that DC seemed to attack readily the whole game. Christian Gomez and Jaime Moreno are playing keep ball until Jaime Moreno just flicks the ball up into the air out towards the middle of the field where Ben Olsen kind of is. Ben Olsen's first touch takes the ball out of the air and into a perfect position for a half volley from an area that must be at least 30 yards out at the closest point. A man in the form he was in would be silly not to give this a go, because what would they say if he missed? He still had 2 goals on his name on the day and was having a heck of a game to that point anyway. He sprints towards the ball, swings his right boot through it, dipping the ball up and over Waterroyce and just under the crossbar. The crowd goes mental as Benny stands in shock with his hands to his ear to say, "Who says I didn't have that in my locker? Keep coming." Funny enough, Juan Pablo Angel would actually get an immediate response to this 1 minute later to quiet the crowd down. but it was too little, too late. DC would win 4-2 on a brilliant showing from Benny Olsen and his only, emphasis on only, career hat trick. Some fun facts: Ben Olsen only recorded 3 multi-goal games in his career as a right midfielder. 2 of those were against Red Bull. Ben Olsen only scored 31 goals in his MLS career. 11 of those came against Red Bull. There's nothing that this man loved more than a game against the New York Red Bulls or the Metro, depending on when it was, what time period it was. This will be the last time we talk about Ben Olsen hat trick ever in the MLS History Retold series. But I have a strange feeling that Red Bull giving somebody their first anything is probably coming back.
Oh, come on. You think if Red Bull's not Red Bulling many more times in this series, you're out of your mind.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, they've given me my first heart attack, so we'll talk about that later on in MLS 3.0.
I'm sure they've given you more than just one heart attack. Let's be honest here.
We'll see.
I don't have a nice transition for this one. I couldn't think of anything. I was trying on the spot. I can't think of any good transition.
I was waiting for it.
I'm sorry. I don't have one for this one. But